November 24, 1971. Thanksgiving was only a day away, and airports across America were filled with travelers heading home to celebrate with family. Businessmen carried briefcases instead of laptops. Children watched airplanes from terminal windows with excitement. Flight attendants welcomed passengers with warm smiles, and flying still carried an air of elegance. But air travel in 1971 was very different from today. There were no TSA checkpoints, no metal detectors, no body scanners. Passengers simply purchased a ticket, walked through the terminal, and boarded the aircraft. Bags were rarely searched. Identification was seldom verified. Security relied mostly on trust. Commercial aviation was booming. The Boeing 727 had become one of America's most successful passenger jets, connecting cities across the country with speed and comfort. No one could imagine that within a few hours, one quiet passenger would expose just how vulnerable the entire airline industry really was. The events that unfolded aboard Northwest Orient Flight 305 would shock the nation, launch one of the largest FBI investigations in history, and create an unsolved mystery that still fascinates people more than 50 years later. His real identity remains unknown. The world remembers him by only one name: D.B. Cooper. At approximately 2 p.m., a middle-aged man entered Portland International Airport. He didn't attract attention. He appeared to be in his mid-40s, about 6 feet tall, with neatly combed dark hair and calm brown eyes. He wore a dark business suit, polished black loafers, a crisp white shirt, and a thin black tie secured with a pearl tie clip. Everything about him suggested he was just another businessman traveling for work. He walked to the Northwest Orient ticket counter and purchased a one-way ticket to Seattle. The ticket cost only $20. He paid in cash. The name written on the ticket was Dan Cooper. No one questioned the name. No one asked for identification. No one searched his briefcase. As he calmly walked toward Flight 305, airport employees barely noticed him. He looked completely ordinary, yet hidden inside his black briefcase was something that would soon terrify everyone aboard the aircraft. Years later, investigators would discover that Dan Cooper was almost certainly an alias. Ironically, a newspaper reporting mistake transformed that name forever. Instead of Dan Cooper, history would remember him as D.B. Cooper. Flight 305 departed Portland shortly before 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Only 36 passengers were on board. The short flight to Seattle was expected to take less than 30 minutes. The mysterious passenger selected seat 18C, near the rear of the aircraft. He ordered a bourbon and soda. He lit a cigarette. Smoking was completely normal on commercial flights during that era. Flight attendant Florence Schaffner noticed nothing unusual. The man remained calm, polite, patient. Then, he quietly handed her a folded piece of paper. At first, she assumed it contained a phone number from another businessman trying to flirt. She slipped the note into her purse without reading it. The passenger leaned toward her and spoke softly. "Miss, you'd better look at that note. I have a bomb." Her heart immediately began racing. She unfolded the paper. The handwritten message was short, direct, and terrifying. "I have a bomb in my briefcase." In a single moment, an ordinary Thanksgiving flight became one of the most famous hijackings in American history. Trying to remain calm, Florence Schaffner sat beside the mysterious passenger. He quietly opened his briefcase just enough for her to see inside. She caught only a brief glimpse. Several red cylindrical objects, wires, a battery. Whether the device was a real bomb or an elaborate fake has never been proven. But in that moment, she believed it was absolutely real. So did everyone else. The hijacker calmly explained exactly what he wanted. $200,000 in cash, 4 parachutes, and a fuel truck waiting in Seattle. If his demands were ignored, he threatened to detonate the bomb. There was no shouting, no panic, no violence. His voice never rose above a normal conversation. It was that calm confidence that made him even more terrifying. The message quickly reached the cockpit. Captain William Scott immediately contacted air traffic control. Within minutes, the FBI, local police, and airline executives were all racing to respond. As Flight 305 circled above Seattle, authorities faced an impossible decision. Could they risk calling the hijacker's bluff? Or should they meet every demand to protect the lives of everyone on board? Time was running out. The aircraft remained in the air for nearly 2 hours, burning fuel while police and FBI agents rushed to gather the ransom money. Banks across Seattle worked frantically. Employees counted stacks of $20 bills. Every bill's serial number was carefully photographed, giving investigators one slim chance of tracking the money if it ever surfaced again. Meanwhile, parachutes were collected from nearby skydiving schools and military sources. The hijacker watched calmly from his seat. He never appeared nervous. He never raised his voice. He simply waited. As dusk settled over Seattle, Flight 305 finally received permission to land. The runway lights stretched into the rainy evening. Waiting below were police officers, FBI agents, fuel trucks, and $200,000 in cash. No one knew whether the next few minutes would end peacefully or in disaster. At exactly 5:39 p.m., Northwest Orient Flight 305 touched down at Seattle-Tacoma Airport. The landing was smooth. From the cabin windows, passengers noticed flashing police lights and emergency vehicles parked far from the aircraft. Few understood why they had been delayed for nearly 2 hours. Following Cooper's instructions, the Boeing 727 taxied to a remote corner of the airport, away from the terminal. The engines remained running, cabin lights were dimmed, curtains stayed closed. Outside, the rain continued falling as FBI agents, airline officials, and airport personnel carefully prepared the exchange. No one wanted to provoke the hijacker. One mistake could cost dozens of innocent lives. A Northwest Orient employee slowly approached the aircraft carrying a large canvas bag. Inside were $200,000 in $20 bills, exactly 10,000 bills, each one photographed and catalogued by the FBI. Moments later, 4 parachutes were delivered. 2 were military-style backpack parachutes. 2 were reserve parachutes. The FBI had deliberately included civilian equipment instead of sabotaging the parachutes. Investigators feared Cooper might force a flight attendant to jump with him if he suspected a trap. Every decision that evening was designed to protect lives. Once Cooper confirmed that his demands had been met, he calmly nodded. The first phase of his extraordinary plan had succeeded. But the most dangerous part was only beginning. With the ransom safely aboard, Cooper made another surprising decision. He ordered every passenger to leave the aircraft. One by one, 36 frightened travelers quietly walked down the boarding stairs into the cold Seattle evening. Many had no idea how close they had come to disaster. Some believed the delay had been caused by mechanical problems. Others sensed something was terribly wrong only after seeing dozens of police officers waiting nearby. Parents held their children's hands tightly. Business travelers looked back at the aircraft in disbelief. News reporters, held at a distance by authorities, watched as buses carried the passengers away. Not a single passenger had been injured. Not a single shot had been fired. Inside the aircraft, only 4 people remained. Captain William Scott, First Officer William Radachak, Flight Engineer Harold Anderson, and Flight Attendant Tina Mucklow. Cooper trusted Tina to relay instructions to the cockpit. Unlike many hijackers before him, Cooper remained remarkably calm. He spoke politely. He thanked crew members. He even paid for the bourbon and soda he had ordered earlier. The contrast was unsettling. A man threatening mass murder displayed impeccable manners. No one could predict what he intended to do next. With the passengers gone, Cooper revealed the next stage of his escape. He instructed the pilots to prepare for departure. Their destination was Mexico City. But the journey would not be direct. Cooper demanded they fly south at no more than 10,000 feet, keeping the cabin unpressurized. He insisted on a speed of approximately 170 knots, unusually slow for a commercial jet. Most importantly, he wanted the aircraft's unique rear staircase left operational. The Boeing 727 possessed a feature unlike most passenger aircraft. A stairway built beneath the tail that could be lowered while the airplane was in flight. Very few people knew this. Even fewer would have dared to use it. The pilots warned Cooper that the aircraft would need a fuel stop in Reno, Nevada. After a brief pause, he agreed. As technicians refueled the aircraft, Cooper carefully inspected the parachutes. He selected 1 backpack parachute and 1 reserve. Then he began tying the heavy bag of ransom money securely around his body. Every movement was deliberate. Every action suggested careful planning. Whatever happened next, this was no spontaneous crime. At 7:40 p.m., Flight 305 lifted off once again. Only 5 people remained aboard. 4 crew members, and D.B. Cooper. The aircraft climbed into the dark Pacific Northwest sky. Outside, the weather had worsened. Heavy rain lashed against the fuselage. Powerful winds buffeted the aircraft. Visibility dropped to almost nothing. Cooper instructed Tina Mucklow to remain in the cabin until further notice. A short time later, he handed her a note. His instructions were simple: go to the cockpit, Close the door. Do not come back." She hesitated for only a moment before following his orders. As the cockpit door locked behind her, Cooper was finally alone, somewhere behind the cabin. He was preparing for the jump that would become aviation history. No one knows exactly what he was doing during those final minutes. The only sounds heard by the crew were occasional movements from the rear of the aircraft. Then, silence. As dawn broke over the Pacific Northwest on November 25, 1971, federal agents faced an extraordinary challenge. A man had hijacked a commercial airliner, collected $200,000, jumped into a violent storm, and vanished without a trace. Within hours, the FBI launched one of the largest investigations in its history. The case received an official code name, NORJAK, short for Northwest Hijacking. Military helicopters swept across dense forests. National Guard troops searched steep mountain slopes. Local police officers combed muddy riverbanks. FBI agents interviewed hunters, campers, loggers, and anyone who might have seen a parachute drifting through the night. The suspected jump zone stretched across miles of rugged wilderness. Towering Douglas fir trees reached more than 200 feet into the air. Steep ravines, fast-moving rivers, and freezing temperatures created one of the most unforgiving landscapes in America. Investigators hoped they would find Cooper alive, or at least recover a parachute, a briefcase, a bundle of cash, anything. Days passed, then weeks. Not a single confirmed piece of evidence was discovered. It was as if the mysterious hijacker had simply disappeared into thin air. For the FBI, the search had only become more frustrating. The mystery was growing deeper with every passing day. Hundreds of suspects, but no Cooper. As news of the hijacking spread across America, the FBI became overwhelmed with leads. The agency received thousands of phone calls. Letters poured in from every state. People claimed they had seen Cooper. Some insisted they knew his real name. Others confessed to the crime themselves. By the end of the investigation, more than 800 suspects had been examined. Former military paratroopers, commercial pilots, professional skydivers, criminals with aviation experience, even ordinary businessmen whose appearance resembled the composite sketch. Every promising lead eventually reached a dead end. Fingerprints collected from the aircraft failed to identify the hijacker. The black clip-on tie left behind became one of the few physical clues. Witnesses described Cooper as calm, intelligent, polite, and surprisingly knowledgeable about aircraft. Investigators believed he understood the Boeing 727 better than the average passenger. But one question continued to divide experts. Was Cooper truly an experienced parachutist? Or had he made a fatal mistake by jumping into darkness over unfamiliar terrain? Even today, no one knows the answer. Nearly 9 years passed. The Cooper investigation had grown cold. Many believed the mystery would never be solved. Then, on a quiet February afternoon in 1980, everything changed. 8-year-old Brian Ingram was vacationing with his family along the Columbia River near Vancouver, Washington. While digging in the sand, he uncovered several decaying bundles of $20 bills. The money was badly damaged. Some bills were stuck together. Others had begun to disintegrate after years underground. The FBI quickly confirmed an astonishing fact. The serial numbers matched the ransom money given to Cooper in 1971. Exactly $5,800 had been found. It was the first, and remains the only, portion of the ransom ever recovered. But the discovery raised even more questions. How had the money reached the riverbank? Did floodwaters carry it there? Had Cooper buried it himself? Or did someone else place it there years later? Despite extensive excavation of the surrounding area, no parachute, no clothing, no human remains, and no additional money were ever discovered. The Columbia River had revealed one secret, while guarding countless others. DNA, new technology, and endless theories. As technology advanced, investigators hoped modern science could finally solve the mystery. The clip-on tie Cooper left behind became the focus of renewed attention. Scientists examined tiny particles trapped within its fabric. Microscopic traces of rare metals suggested Cooper may have worked in the aerospace or electronics industry. DNA testing was attempted. Unfortunately, the samples were incomplete. No definitive match could ever be made. Over the decades, countless books, television documentaries, and independent researchers proposed their own suspects. Some believed Cooper died during the jump. Others argued he survived and quietly lived out the rest of his life under another identity. Several men became leading suspects. Each seemed convincing, until new evidence, or the lack of evidence, eliminated them. The deeper investigators looked, the more elusive Cooper became. Every answer seemed to create two new questions. In 2016, after 45 years of investigation, the FBI officially suspended active investigation into the D.B. Cooper case. Thousands of interviews, hundreds of suspects, millions of dollars spent, yet no definitive answer was ever found. Did Cooper survive his daring jump? Or did he disappear forever into the forests below? Some aviation experts believe no one could have survived the freezing temperatures, the violent winds, the darkness, and the unforgiving terrain. Others point to Cooper's remarkable planning, his detailed knowledge of the Boeing 727, his calm behavior under pressure, and his careful escape strategy. Perhaps, he landed safely, recovered the money, and quietly vanished into ordinary life. More than half a century later, the name D.B. Cooper still captures the imagination of millions. His story inspired books, Hollywood films, television series, podcasts, and countless debates among historians and amateur detectives. His hijacking also changed aviation forever. Within a few years, airports introduced metal detectors. Passenger screening became routine. The Boeing 727 itself was modified with a device known as the Cooper vane, preventing the rear staircase from being lowered during flight. One mysterious passenger, one impossible escape, and one unanswered question that continues to echo through American history. Perhaps somewhere, the truth is still waiting to be discovered.